Every spring, millions of people celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, but they do it by hiding brightly colored eggs and waiting for a giant rabbit to deliver candy. The biblical account of Easter features a crucifixion and an empty tomb, yet mentions nothing about pastel-colored bunnies or chocolate. The standard historical explanation is that Easter gets its name and its springtime rituals from an Anglo-Saxon dawn goddess named Eostre. There is a timeline flaw in that theory. Historical records barely mention Eostre before 725 AD, yet the Catholic Church was already observing Easter festivals, complete with spring rituals, centuries before her name ever appeared in print. If the specific English word Easter does derive from this medieval goddess, it was a later addition to a set of religious practices that had already been standardized across the Roman Empire. To find the true origin of these traditions, we have to look past Europe. The trail goes much further back, to the ancient kingdom of Babylon. Archaeological records from Mesopotamia suggest the rabbit and the egg are not modern marketing inventions. These symbols appear as artifacts that mirror a religious framework predating the civilizations of Europe and Rome. Look at this traditional Catholic depiction of the Virgin Mary. She is highly venerated as the Queen of Heaven, adorned with an ornate crown and positioned standing atop a celestial moon. In biblical texts, Mary is described as a humble, favored woman. The scriptures never describe her as a ruling queen, nor do they associate her with lunar symbols or celestial pedestals. This exact mother and child iconography exists long before the 1st century. Here is a bronze statue of the Egyptian goddess Isis nursing her son Horus. Notice the prominent horned disc on her head, a combination of sun and crescent moon imagery, later adapted for goddesses like Juno. This lineage terminates in the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, also called Semiramis, and her son Tammuz. This pairing established the primary archetype for a goddess cult centered on fertility and lunar cycles. This uninterrupted chain of symbols spanning thousands of years suggests the original pagan archetype of the Divine Mother survived the spread of Christianity. She was rebranded with a biblical name to make her worship acceptable to new converts. That fertility theme brings us directly to the Easter egg. In antiquity, the egg was not a spring game. It was revered as the mundane egg, a symbol representing the origin of the inhabitants of the earth. Archaeologists have found highly decorated ostrich eggs hung inside ancient Egyptian and Roman temples, dating back thousands of years before the Christian era. Roman texts record a legend tracing this sacred egg directly to the Euphrates River, the geographic heart of Babylon. The myth describes a giant egg falling from heaven and hatching a goddess named Astarte, another regional name for Ishtar. The rabbit shares a similar global history. Long before the Anglo-Saxons populated Europe, the Aztecs depicted their moon goddess holding a rabbit, and the ancient Chinese worshipped a lunar companion known as the jade rabbit. The association between hares, the moon, and female fertility is found in cultures separated by oceans. Genesis 11 explains this simultaneous global presence. A single population in Mesopotamia fractured into different language groups, carrying their customs as they migrated outward. In new territories, deity names changed to suit dialects, but the specific icons, the moon, the egg, and the rabbit, remained consistent. By breaking the communication lines, the language barrier created the appearance of many unique local mythologies. But underneath the localized names, they were practicing a globally exported Babylonian religion. This continuous survival is known as Mystery Babylon. It is the argument that the unified paganism of the ancient world survived in a mystery form, disguised beneath new cultural and institutional identities. Look at this aerial view of St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. As early mainstream religious institutions expanded, they absorbed local pagan rituals, blending them with Christian doctrine to make their authority more acceptable to the ancient world. Historical records show the church explicitly consecrated the pagan egg of Astarte. They reframed the ancient fertility symbol as a metaphor for Christ emerging from the tomb, bridging the gap between two different belief systems. Even specific culinary rituals were carried over. Ancient texts record the baking of marked cakes for the pagan Queen of Heaven. Today, we see those exact intersecting lines on top of traditional hot cross buns, a staple food of the modern Easter season. The modern iteration of Easter is a product of syncretism. the blending of different, often contradictory, religious practices into a single system. Because of this blending, the holiday is now largely divorced from its supposed biblical source material. Modern traditions like egg hunts and rabbit-themed treats represent a set of rituals that share a direct lineage with the goddess worship established thousands of years ago in the city of Babylon.